Welcome back to the Creative Wellness Podcast with me, Tara Missildine, and my co-host, Amanda Kingsley. Today,
Tara said, we're ready, and hit record, and I looked up and I'm like, oh, she's recording.
Well, today we're going to take you on a journey, as we always do, and it apparently is going to be a fun one, a little informal, where freedom is cultivated through personal development, where women connect to fuel our futures, and where wealth is created as a byproduct of being well. We're excited. We've had to postpone or reschedule this recording session a couple of times. So I think Amanda and I are both chomping at the bit. So Amanda, let's start the episode with our gratitudes. What do you have to be grateful for today?
Gratitude. Let's see. I have a warm, delicious coffee in my hand, and I just totally dig collagen powder. I don't know if you...
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, totally dig it for so many reasons. It's awesome protein in the morning in my coffee. Honestly, like, I notice when I don't drink it consistently that I pudge up a little. It's no big deal. But every time it happens, I'm like, oh yeah, you haven't been drinking collagen in the morning. So really interesting. Yeah, my body definitely feels called to it. Totally.
Yeah. I agree. And I note it when I take it regularly, I also notice an improvement in like my joint issues because I get bad carpal tunnel at night, and it definitely relieves it.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, my gratitude today is for my 13-year-old brick and mortar traditional service business that helps fill in all the blanks and is a bit of a roller coaster, but it gives my family security and it's like something that I know how to do really, really well now. So I'm grateful for that business.
Awesome. I love it.
All right, cool. And on that note, it's kind of a good segue. Today we're talking about money and budgeting, like specifically. I mean, I know where my mind goes when we talk about the broad heading of money and or budgeting. I'm interested to know where yours goes because I think we're in slightly different situations monetarily since we've met.
Panic? No, just kidding.
Oh, well, then maybe it's the same.
Yeah, my money story has changed so much in my adult life. I have a lot of faith in things working out. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like I haven't hit a point in my life where I'm like consistently ahead. And so that's what I mean by panic, is that I do still, and it's not panic, like stress panic. It's more just like, how's it going to work out this time? Which maybe is the way it always is, but I feel like I've been on the edge of getting ahead for a long time. And I'd like to get really far ahead so that I'm not in that place of like, how are we going to pay this bill? How are we going to pay that bill? And it always works out. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think part of the reason it does is because I believe it always will work out. And now I just need to switch my mindset into believing that there is an ability and an abundance so that I can get ahead. I don't have to always just be breaking even.
So that's been your story forever.
It has been my story. Yeah. Totally. Yep.
Yeah. So we're slightly different in that I feel like I have experienced where I am right now is almost identical to that, but I've experienced both sides of a very wide spectrum, know, where we were welfare latchkey kids for a spell, and I moved out very early and supported my younger sister, and we chose between heating our house or buying food.
Right.
While I was working, an inhuman amount of hours. And then I've also had the experience of making multiple six figures a year in a business and having more money than we knew what to do with, and having a food budget that was literally 6 times what it is now. And not even caring, like the budget was so ridiculously high that like we never even exceeded it, and we bought anything we wanted to, and we just like we had enough money that we didn't think about money. And that was what my goal has always been with money, is like You know, my story around money is not, I don't want to think about it. Like I just want to
Yeah.
know that I'm generating enough and enough is there to do anything I want to do. And I
Yeah.
don't have an exorbitant lifestyle. You know, the things I want to do are not like extreme. I don't necessarily need to own a yacht or anything like that. I don't need to have $1 million home. I just want to have enough money to like, you know, do what I want to do with.
Yeah.
But I have experienced both sides of that spectrum, like having more than enough money and having a savings account that grows every month, despite everything being paid on time, and
Right.
living, you know, not like a frugal luxury, I'd say. You know, I'm always conscious of money, but
Yeah.
you know, we didn't have to choose between anything. We could do
Right.
what we wanted. So it's really interesting that, you know, I have experienced both of those, and now it's sort of like that roller coaster has got me now down to like just slightly below where I would like to be, quite a bit below that top end of the
Yeah.
spectrum. And that's where I think being conscious of where money goes, and from that budgeting perspective, that's really important when you're in these kinds of situations. You know, when you do have to be like managing the time frame of when money's coming in and when that same money needs to go out, because there's not necessarily enough to just, you know, I know that going into the month, I can't just pay all of my bills before we collect more money, you know?
Right.
And I don't know if that's the same for you, but do you actually operate within an actual budget in your house, or is it more like the principles and practice around money?
Well, I think I love that you described my introduction as a story, because it is so much a story. For instance, as my income changes, our income changes, and we've had like anywhere from 1 to 5 streams of income in our house. Like it's just always changing. But as it changes, we adapt. So that always having enough, just enough, is always adapting. You know, like I made more money last month than I've made ever, actually. But there's still
Congratulations, interruption.
interruption. Yeah, but there's still these huge bills that need to get paid. So it's like it's proof to me that it is a story, because as I change, it changes with me, you know, and that I really like that, because I know that then I can move it out of the way with some intention and some work. And I bring this up now because you said you segued into budgeting. And I really do feel like if I learned about money, understood and committed to a budget, and really became much more aware of the ins and outs, that story could change. And I've said that so many times in my life and not done it. Which is interesting. But I think that one of the missing elements for me is just awareness. Like I'm like you said, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I
don't want to think about it.
It'll work out. It'll work out. It'll work out. And it does. But sometimes I'll look back and be like, how did that work out? Like, what just doesn't even make sense mathematically. Like, what? And so, yeah, I do think one of the key elements, and now that I'm saying it out loud, I am even like way more motivated to address it, because I do, yeah, that story just comes with me, because I'm not really honest about money and budgeting, and I just wait for it to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to say that it's working against that manifestation process to like give it a little bit of help in working out, maybe faster or even easier or more like more advantageously. But I agree with you. Like I'm extremely conscious of frugal living and where can I reserve the money that I've made. But I very much view money is just a resource. It's like the money that comes to me, I have earned, and sometimes with a lot of energy, and like I traded a lot for that money. So I have made many budgets in the past, and then depending on my emotional landscape or like sometimes it's more important for me to feel like those resources are actually mine than something else. So like I'll treat myself, or I'll invest that money somewhere that doesn't necessarily fit my budget. So I've made many budgets and abandoned also many.
Yeah.
But
And
it is important.
I've definitely worked with a few people who have guided me down the budget road, and I don't know, maybe this will be my ask at the end, or I'll just ask early. Like, one thing I notice happens is when I get super, I don't know, like, I don't know if I'm going to find the words. When I really look at the numbers and do think in terms of budgeting and more awareness, I panic. Like, and then it doesn't work out. And so I think that's the thought place I need to get to when that panic comes in, to retrain my brain not to, because when I don't pay attention, this is my story. When I don't pay attention, it works out. When I do pay attention, everything's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, yeah, that's the place that I need to do it differently this time, is like, do the thought work, the inner work, the deep work to be aware and not have it be stressful, because that's what I've seen in the past. Like, that's my history, and the story that I've attached to is when I pay attention, it's stressful and it doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. When I don't pay attention, everything works out.
Yeah, well, because you're keeping it, because you are convinced that paying attention is going to make it not work out. So then your energy is sort of like flowing in that wrong spiral. I feel similarly, like so one of the most transformational experiences I had when it made things worse before it got better. But I was part of a money group with a couple of very dear friends of mine, and we followed this book that it was sort of like a eat the meat, spit out the bones kind of thing, because the author of the book was so not in alignment with all of it was like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't spend $300 on shoes this month. And we were like, yeah, not at all where any of us are. But the principles were there. And part of it was that we got very, very vulnerably transparent with one another about exactly where all of our debt stood. We did spending diaries for an entire month, and then like shared with the group about where our money actually goes. And I've never been more clear on where money went. But then when I started, creating spending plans instead of like budgets of like capping where I was allowed to spend money, and did a spending plan and made it more of like, here's where I intend to spend money, not like here's where I can't spend money, which is a lot of times the way that I would view budgeting in the past. Like, I can only spend this amount of money. It was like, I'm choosing to spend this amount of money because that's what is going to protect my family and my finances. And then also what really helps me is when I view a certain budget line or a spending plan line as more of a challenge and less of a limit. So I'm like, can I spend even less than that amount of money? Like, can I do that? I think I can do that. Makes me get creative with like our eating, and creative with batching my errands so that I'm not filling my gas tank as much or whatever. But like, I mean, we're talking when I'm like really hardcore trying to, protect the resource of our money. But it always helps me not to think of it as a limit, or like, because then I feel trapped and caged and like, why am I even working if I don't have enough money to like have these essentials met? And it's more of like a challenge, like, hey, can I do this? But that also feeds into my personality type. And there's lots of different personality types, and some actually feed on the clarity. I know that my sister is like that. She's very analytical.
That's not me.
Yeah, me neither. And so her knowing exactly to the penny how much is coming in, exactly what date things are due to the penny, and having it complete. And my sister is debt free, and she has been for a long time. And like, they also live on one income. So like, she's got a really good system, and she found out what works well for her. But I think that it's really important to know what keeps you in that positive flow state around money. Right. You're absolutely right. It doesn't do any good to be clear and then be sabotaging yourself because your energy is totally blocked around it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. There's so many, I mean, I would argue that money is the thing that it has the most layers and the most nuances and the most telling, it speaks so much about who we are. And I one thing that I find super interesting is like, I am such a laid back, happy, go with the flow kind of person. And then when I pay attention or think about money or dig into money, like I completely freak out and like I feel like not myself, you know? And so when I can put those two things in alignment, like magic is going to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? And it's so interesting. I mean, as a coach, I feel like 100% confident that I could coach someone through this. And and I'm able to self-coach myself through so many things, like everything except money.
Well, see, every coach needs a coach for something. And
it's so true. Like, this is the place where I'm like, wait a second, all the other places in my life where I'm able to self-coach and get myself out of my own way, like, this one is just not working. And so this is a place where I really lean into lots of support because I need a coach for this part. Like, I need other people to help me navigate this because it is so out of alignment with all the other parts, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do feel like I can offer really good support to other people and give them really great tools to navigate this. But then I look at my own life and I'm like, yep. Panic. Panic button.
Well, it's funny that you say that because it actually does help bring people out of panic. And I think that's the response that many of us have when we're in this kind of money situation. And most of the people that I know are in a similar situation money-wise to us, especially people that have sort of ambitious, self-driven projects and businesses that they're working on because things are so unpredictable. And it takes a long time of investing in ourselves and something before things materialize sometimes. But there's nothing that is quicker to bring someone out of panic than someone just saying, here's what you need to do. That's pulled me out of panic so many times. Please just tell me what to do. I can't get out of my own way.
I know. And then if they tell you and you're like, no, that's not what I'm going to do. You still got your clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like exactly. Either way, if somebody just helps you, just nudges you like, okay, do this. It still brings a lot of clarity in either direction because you're either going to agree or disagree.
And then you're going to have to stand for something instead of just being caught in like the cloud, So you had mentioned that you utilize a lot of resources around this money thing. What are some of the things that you actually do or use to kind of keep yourself in a good space around money
mindset things?
Yeah.
Well, I do go right to my why work and my thought work. So I stick with the same principles. Those are very helpful. And what happens is a lot of times what will happen with the thought work is that I do the thought work, it makes perfect sense, and I apply it. And with money, I seem to do the thought work, it makes perfect sense, and then I step away from the paper and I'm like, application, not so easy. So some of the books that I love and lean into and can just open are You're a Badass at Making Money. Love that.
Good one.
There's a book called Easy Breezy Prosperity. Have you read that?
No, I have not. But we'll make a note for the show notes.
Actually, as we were talking, it made me want to revisit that book because that was one of my favorite money books. And
is that around mindset, money mindset?
It was a little more woo than some other resources, but not at the same time. So yeah, definitely around money mindset. I periodically open Kate Northrup's Money a Love Story, but have never completely followed it. There's our timer.
Okay.
And just leaning into other people who know. But yeah, I want to point out where you said like it, is very much related to personality, because sometimes I will ask someone for advice or suggestions and they'll say, well, map out a plan for how you're going to pay it back. And like, that's when I'm like, no, that's not how my brain works. like now I'm gonna freak out or whatever. So yeah, it is important to understand your own personality and lean into resources that match it, because otherwise you just get confused.
Yeah, definitely. Or you feel even more pressure to operate in a way that doesn't feel natural. And it just, I mean, and money can take a lot of time. Getting clear on your money and creating new systems for yourself and all of that can be extremely time consuming. Yeah. So I just quickly want to mention a couple of the books that I've also loved. I also love that Badass at Making Money book. That I've read that once. I'm probably going to read it again because I enjoyed it, or maybe get the audiobook. The book that I was referencing a while ago that was sort of the guidebook to that money group. Yeah. It was called The Smart Cookies Guide to Making More Dough. And it actually did give me the template that I still use to this day for creating spending plans. And I would say that was, like I said, the most transformational is creating that money group where you had the accountability and transparency and support.
I want to look into that.
It was very cool. Yeah. And another book that I've loved that has helped shape sort of my thinking around money was called The Art of Frugal Hedonism, which is like pretty much exactly my thing. Like I want to feel like I live in the lap of luxury, but I want to do it on like the cheapest plan ever. Pennies on the dollar of luxury.
Wow. That's probably not the right book for me. Smart Cookies Guide to Making More Dough. I don't know. That sounds like worth a read.
It was fun, and like I said, you like take the bits that work and don't take the rest too seriously, because I have a feeling a lot of it like is kind of SMH moments. Right. Just totally different strata of existence. But so let's wrap up our episode, because we actually already had our timer go, right?
We did, and I feel like like this one, I feel like we really barely scratched the surface.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I feel like 7 more episodes have opened up onto the docket while we talked. More. Yeah, totally. So what do we want to wrap up our ask?
I already gave my ask. Like, I'm just curious about more resources people have that have been helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually going to second that one, because if you know of a great book or, audiobook or website even that could kind of speak to some of this money stuff, please share it with us, and we'll pass it on.
Like you or anyone has a sort of like a template for following some kind of money sisterhood or money circle like that. That's really interesting to me, and I think could be so helpful.
It really was. We did it for over a year, and then we even revisited it years later and did it for another 6 months. But I mean, like, paid off tens of thousands of dollars of debt.
Yeah. There's something about doing that work with women that is really attractive to me. So cool. Great.
Woohoo. Okay. All right. Till next time.